stop setting Jabba on defense. Let's talk about this, guys. Looking at Jabba's stats on Swugger.gg, you would be forgiven for thinking that he is a relatively good character to be having on defense all the flipping time. But honestly, right now in the current climate of GAC, the datacrons that are out and the teams that are viable, Jabba has got no reason to really be on defense. And I know what you're going to say, guys. You're going to go in and you're going to say, Scribble, currently there is a datacron set that massively boosts Jabba's defensive potential in GAC, and you would be, for the most part, pretty right. The Bauschcron in particular does absolutely phenomenal things. The level 3 on this cron, for example, provides stacking offense. Each dark side allies start their turn with at least 2 dispellable buffs, which is relatively easy to get in a Jabba team. The level 6 is incredible. First time each time a cartel ally falls below 50% of their maximum health, they're going to get damage immunity for a turn, and you can't dispel it, so it stops them from being able to be killed, which again is absolutely phenomenal. But not only that, whenever an enemy takes damage from thermal detonators, cartel allies are going to recover 5% health and protection, gain 5% turn meter, and there's a 50% chance that an enemy is inflicted with a thermal detonator for 2 turns, which is irresistible and cannot be dispelled, obviously. And that's just those first 2 tiers. When we then also look at the Bausch level 9 of this datacron, we can see that her cooldown for her AoE grenade ability is reduced by 1, and whenever she puts thermal detonators on the enemy, she's going to inflict additional thermal detonators on the enemy and gain 10% stacking armor penetration and 10% turn meter. It's kind of nutty. So I'll forgive you if you're thinking, well, Scribble, what's the problem then? I can see you using it in Arena, I can see it's often used on defense in GAC, and honestly the problem is twofold. First of all, Jabba has a relatively common counter in GAC that doesn't require a GL, and that's kind of scary. Let me introduce you to Dr. Aphra. This setup for Aphra is absolutely phenomenal, and it doesn't need the GAC Omicrons to even be effective. This will work in Squad Arena, it'll work in Territory Wars, and it will work in GAC, obviously with or without any of her Omicrons. Now you can see the team that I'm using is actually Aphra, GG, IG-88, BT-1 and 000. The core is obviously with her individual droids. I'm using IG-88 because he's a relatively unused dark side droid companion who does do AoEs and can put heal immunity with his Zeta and all this sort of good business. I'm using GG not because he's any good, but because the other option would be B2 and I still haven't relicked him. If you've got B2, throw B2 in there and your GG droid team will be defunct regardless. So let's take a look at the actual level 3, 6 and 9. Now the 3 is completely irrelevant because it only applies to light side units and we are going in with an exclusively dark side team. The level 6 ability grants us 100% additional turn meter whenever our scoundrels first use their basic ability. This is phenomenal when we pair it with the level 9 for Dr. Aphra. Why do I say that? At the end of each droid ally's turn, Aphra is going to gain a bonus turn and recover 5% health and protection. Now honestly, that health and protection benefit is largely irrelevant. The bonus turn, on the other hand, is incredible. If you think about it, all of your allies are dark side droids, so every single time they take a turn, she will take a bonus turn at the end, and if we are using basics with them on their first turn, they will also gain 100% turn meter to take another turn, which will trigger her level 9 once again. So let's see it in practice and why this is important when it comes to Jabba on defense. Now keep in mind, I did this in Squad Arena, so it means there's no Omicrons active whatsoever in this particular battle. The opponent has a Relic 9 Jabba the Hutt with the Bauschcron and some pretty good mods there. But you can see as soon as we start our turns, we start to ramp incredibly quickly. At the end of each droid turn, Aphra is here going to take a bonus turn. We've almost got infinite sources of increasing the enemy's cooldown, which is the second special, and the first special will summon our droid ally. So we're constantly building up our siphon, which is powering up not only Aphra but also the commando droid on her side, and we are also decreasing the cooldowns on the enemy so they can only really ever use basics, which is just incredible. This Jabba cron that the enemy is using is the perfect setup. It's got the damage immunity on the level 6, it's got the Bausch on the level 9, and there is relic levels across the board here. We can see there's only R7 on Santi. Granted, we use a bonus turn over here from Afra once again to slowly ramp up, and the funny thing about this is it never feels like we're ever in any danger. Now GG can't actually gain that bonus turn, unfortunately, from using his basic, but we do get some use out of him at least, because as he is a dark side droid, it is triggering the Datacron to give Afra a bonus turn. And as you can see, the damage immunity is currently in place on Xanten, so we can't actually hurt most of the allies, but slowly but surely we are chewing through them, and that torture over there is reducing the defense on Santi. What you'll see is towards the end of this battle in particular, that Afra has ramped up over 600, currently ramped up over 600 potency, but towards the end of it she's over 1,000, and we'll get to see some funny stuff happening to Jabba when he finally gets to be hit. You can see almost the entire enemy team right now is currently in damage immunity. The only one that isn't is Jabba himself and Skiff Guard Lando. The overall health on our team is also really, really strong, and that's because the enemy hasn't had the opportunity to really do much of anything. There we go, everybody apart from Jabba right now has triggered their damage immunity. 2.5 minutes left on the clock, everybody in my team is still alive. Granted, that IG-88 is looking a little bit peaky. But here we go, once again, the AoE constantly off cooldown, and we're increasing the cooldowns on the enemy team. Embo is gone, we still can't target Jabba because, of course, he has his allies available to him, and the enemies are all under damage immunity, which means we just have to, well, we just gotta wait really more than anything else. But I do find it a really entertaining team to use, because they just can't get the ball rolling. Now that Santi's back, we'll continue to increase their cooldowns. Lovely, 900 stacks of that siphon on Dr. Afra now. And here we go, Skiff Guard Lando is about to eat it. Now granted, my droids over here aren't high relics. My Afra is relic 5, my BT1 Trip 0 is also relic 5, IG-88 is relic 5, and GG is relic 7. So it's not like this requires a bunch of really high investment in your droids as far as relics are concerned. It's not a bad investment anyway, because Dr. Afra does have missions throughout the mixed planets in Rise of the Empire TB, so you'll want to eventually get her up to at least relic 8 regardless. Now GG is a capital ship pilot, so that's also pretty good. Just watch what happens to Jabba. Let's see that again, shall we? Look at this Jabba now, just takes a quick hit. He's got basically 100% health, and boom, took what, 495,000 true damage from our commando droid on a call to assist. Relic 9 on the Jabba the Hutt. Isn't it beautiful? The astute of you in the audience will be saying, wait a minute, Scribble, you said there were 2 reasons why not to put Jabba on defense, and the second one is different. It's not because of what can beat him on offense, it's about what he can beat on offense. Allow me to present the Toxic Layer comp. This is a very common defensive team seen in the Kyber regions at this moment, using the latest galactic legend with R2-D2, Drogon, Han, and Chewie with the Drogon Kron. Now this team is particularly annoying because the damage output out the gate is incredibly high. You get Han taking a bonus turn, shooting and stunning with Chewie assisting, and then you have Drogon's level 9 ability, which starts him with a bonus turn and passes a whole bunch of additional health, as well as immunity to ability block and to fear for the first turn. It also passes up keen stratagem to all rebel allies at the start of battle, which effectively increases their offense by a whopping 50%. So yeah, it's painful. Now I'm not even using an ideal setup here. The level 3 is providing additional buffs at the start of the turn, crit damage, crit chance, and offense up, and my level 6 is not using the damage reduction, which over 50% health, they reduce the incoming damage by 75% apart from on Galactic Legend Layer. I'm actually using one currently, which grants tenacity up across the team to help stop Jabba. However, with this Kron, it still is incredibly susceptible to Jabba. And the really fun thing about this particular Kron going up against Toxic Layer, one of the most frustrating comps in the game, is you can just put it on full auto and have a good time. Now, I'm not recommending people go ahead and put this on full auto because it will almost always perform superior when you play it yourself, but I just want to show it for the case sake that You can just go in and full auto against one of the toughest comps in the game and just win. This one wins with us losing Bausch Leia, who we wouldn't lose if we had have actually gone in and manually played it. You can see, again, this is a Relic 9 layer. Relic 9 Toxic layer with ideal comps. So it's got the reduced damage on the level 6, it's got the buffs on the basic, and of course it does have the Drogon Cron at the start. You can see everybody here has got Keen Stratagem. This is why we lost Leia there. So what could have happened is if we'd have actually played it manually, is we could use Kasantin's ability to use Disarm on Drogon, and that will reduce his damage output, and he would not be able to one-tap our Bausch Leia. Now, Bausch Leia is literally the worst person they could kill. Killing Bausch Leia is horrendous for this team, but you will see that we still win anyway, just by focusing Leia Organa and just hitting auto. Isn't it phenomenal? Isn't it phenomenal? Now, my Hutt Cartel allies are all relatively high relics. I've got Relic 8 on Jabba, I believe, 8 on Kasantin, 8 on Skiffguard Lando, and 8 on Bausch Leia, and I believe 8 on, so they all 8. Yeah, they're all Relic 8. I can count, guys. I can count relic levels. And that was because of their viability within the Crate Dragon Raid, which a lot of people might have done, but I agree it wouldn't be for everybody. So when looking at that benefit, taking Jabba off defense gives you a highly viable option to be beating one of the toughest 5v5 defensive teams in the game, and it stops you from being able to be countered by a very common Dr. Aphra with her Datacron. Now, I understand, ladies and gentlemen, not everybody is in the position where they have every GL and they have every legendary and they have all the Datacrons farmed, so this is very much a specific use case for those of you that only have part of this or perhaps all of it. I'm still seeing a lot of people making this mistake, and in GAC that ends up putting them in a situation where they either get stuck on GL Leia or they're getting full cleared because of placing an inefficient defense. This solves that one problem. This solves both of those problems, in fact, with one very easy solution: just take Jabba off defense. Obviously, this only really applies if the enemy has got that Bausch Cron on defense, and if they also happen to have and use Toxic Leia. But I think the longer that we get to the more frequently that we start using this setup, the better off everybody is going to be. As you can see over here, in the final closing minutes of this match, we have managed to fully recover across the board, and it's just down to Han Solo, and this is with highly inefficient targeting, obviously, because I did nothing but hit full auto just as a use case scenario here. The last thing that I want to leave you with, ladies and gentlemen, is that the Arcane Visions Datacron set is actually due to dust in 2 weeks, so at the end of this 5v5 championship round, you will not see that Datacron at all, which means most likely there are going to be no Toxic Leia comps on defense anymore, and probably most likely Leia will be pulled off defense entirely. Now, the Datacrons for Bausch Leia and for Dr. Aphra are still going to maintain. They're still going to be available until March 21st, so we're still going to have that viability for the foreseeable future. However, perhaps we won't be using Jabba to take down Leia, and that's okay. I think you should just probably scout your opponent. If they have Dr. Aphra and her Cron, don't put Jabba on defense. If they do, then perhaps you can leave him on defense for additional defensive viability. Jabba is still a phenomenal GL and can take down pretty much any team in the game by himself, so he's always going to be useful on offense. So what have we learned today, ladies and gentlebeans? That's right, don't put Jabba on defense, guys. Unless you're facing me in GAC, then put Jabba on defense every single time, and if you want to forget to set a Datacron, even better. Until the next video, ladies and gentlemen of the tribe, make sure you like and subscribe, and may the Force be with you.